Hello, welcome to the 4thDown podcast. We're your hosts for today, and today we're going to be talking, guys, about fantasy football. Football season is back. We hope to give you guys some advice to help dominate your fantasy team this season. And so, we're going to be giving you guys advice for your number one overall pick. Some players that may not seem to be getting a lot of recognition, but they could have a breakout season, and some players to avoid.
My number one tip is don't listen to your husband when he gives you advice.
That is true. I did cost my wife a championship game because I told her to start Dak Prescott over Joe Burrow. But to be fair, Dak Prescott did have a great game.
Yeah, but Joe Burrow had a better one, and I needed those points.
All right, so let's just jump right in. Before we begin, we just want to say thank you everyone who's been listening to our podcast so far. As you see on the bottom, these are some of the apps where you can follow us. We are not on Spotify yet, but we're soon to be. So that will be relevant here very soon. You can follow us on YouTube on the 4thDown Podcast, on Instagram on the 4thDown, and on TikTok. All right, so let's begin with some of our number one overall pick advice. So basically, we picked three players for.
We picked 3 players that we'd pick overall, 3 sleepers, and 3 players to avoid or busts.
And starting with the first overall pick, I'll go first. We'll go like player back and forth. So like
Okay.
I'll say one, you say one. The first player I think you should pick if you have the number one overall pick, and I think this is a strong case, is Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson had the most receiving yards since 2020. He's Kirk Cousins' number one option, and he's just overall a great talent. Something about those LSU wide receivers, like with him and Jamar Chase, but Justin Jefferson, his big rookie year, 1,400 yards. His past season been incredible, but he gets open, makes the big plays, and I think that's going to be, I think he's going to be one of the players that are going to be your MVP of your league.
My first overall pick would be Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce's one of the number one projected tight ends. He's one of the top tight ends in the league. And with Tyreek Hill having been traded to the Dolphins, and he's one of the veterans that Mahomes has to throw to, that he knows how he plays. And I think he's going to put up big numbers this season.
Yeah, Travis Kelce definitely being the only reliable target in that group, because we know Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez, they're going to get some time used to. So that leaves a pretty big opening for people. If you can get Travis Kelce early, your tight end position will be filled, and they're definitely one of the most important positions when it comes to fantasy. Now, number 2 for me, I want to go with Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry, he had that foot injury about week 10 of the season, but Derrick Henry was on pace for another 2,000-yard season before he injured his foot. I think he had 800 rushing yards in 7 games before that injury, and he still finished, I think, top 12 in rushing yards too. Derrick Henry, in my opinion, he's the best running back in the NFL. He can definitely not only on rushing, but pass or receiving too. I think he'll be of great value at the number one overall pick if you have that number one pick. And again, I just think with him, he's easily going to get you a lot of points, in both regards. So, heck, I think Derrick Henry alone can dominate the opposing team. He's just that really good when it comes to, fantasy football.
My next pick would be Cooper Kupp. I think he's one of the top wide receivers out there. And some of the other top wide receivers in the league are with new teams or new QBs that they need time to get used to. But the Rams are coming off of their Super Bowl win. They're in a really good spot. I think he's a good pick, and he's going to put up numbers.
Mm-hmm. And I want to add real quick, too, with Matthew Stafford getting used to Sean McVay's system in year 2, they're only going to improve. So we could see maybe a 2,000-yard season from Cooper Kupp, so who knows. But I definitely agree. I think Cooper Kupp should be in the conversation for number one overall pick. Now, my last player is my third and final player, Jonathan Taylor. I don't really want to put Jonathan Taylor in a number one spot because, one breakout season by a running back, but he's just so good when it comes, like Derrick Henry when it comes to both rushing and receiving passes. And with Matt Ryan at the helm, I think he'll be better when it comes to like screen passes and passing the backfield. We know his ability to run with the ball, but I think with Matt Ryan there, um, Frank Reich will know how to maneuver him around in the passing game. But Jonathan Taylor, I still think, is a top 2 running back in the league, and I believe Jonathan Taylor is going to have a much he's gonna have a better season than what he did last year with his MVP caliber season. So I think Jonathan Taylor with the new offense with Matt Ryan, I think he should be in consideration for number one. Not only because of his rushing ability, but with the fact that with help from a veteran quarterback, it will help maneuver his passing game too, or receiving game.
My third pick, and I don't know that I would put him fully at number one, but I would definitely put him in the first few rounds, would be Joe Mixon. I think he definitely had a really good season last year, and I think the Bengals, I would hope that they would rely on the run game a little more than they have in the past, especially with the way that their O line is, because we need to keep Joe Burrow alive.
They did improve their O line in the offseason too.
Yeah, they
So,
have. So I think he would be a good pickup.
but yeah, and then with I think Alex Kappa they got pretty sure Tampa Bay, but with him and get another guy, it helps open up a hole for Joe Mixon to run. So Joe Mixon could be even better too. So yeah, so those are pretty much our number one overall picks. Some players that we think that should be at the number one spot. I mean, everyone's gonna have their own opinion, but we feel like these are players that will definitely help you out if you ever get stuck thinking like, oh, who should I pick number one overall? Now, the next category is gonna be sleeper players. Obviously, we picked 3 players each. Um, and I guess if you want to start off with your first sleeper player,
My first sleeper player would be Derek Carr. I think the Raiders are gonna. I think the Raiders are a sleeper team in general, but I think with Devonte Adams there and all of the work they've done building the team, I think Derek Carr could get you some. I think he's an easy pickup in like the third to fifth round.
yeah, I mean, Derek Carr ain't bad, and obviously people are gonna be sleeping on him a lot this season. But with the new vamp up, and not only Devontae Adams, but he also got Demarcus Robinson from Kansas City. Derek Carr could have, a dark horse season. My first player for sleeper team, and this might be might start some controversy, but I think Kirk Cousins is a lot better quarterback than what people are saying, especially when it comes to fantasy terms. Kirk Cousins can sling the ball. He can get you to yardage. The interceptions could improve, but the touchdowns are still there. He's very consistent. I think there was a stat saying he's the only player since like 2018 have 25 plus touchdowns or 30 plus. So he's very consistent when it comes to touchdown passes and passing yards. And with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and even Dalvin Cook in the backfield, if he can stay healthy, I think Kirk Cousins can be that top quarterback. Or not really top quarterback, but like in a mixture of like he can lead you to an MV or to a championship in fantasy football. So I personally think Kirk Cousins is a sleeper in my opinion.
My next sleeper player is Elijah Mitchell. Um, he was a solid player for me last year in my fantasy team, and I think as a whole, they're going to improve overall.
Yeah, San Francisco should definitely improve, and with Debo Samuel too, wanting to switch to only wide receiver, that opens up the more room for Elijah Mitchell. So he could definitely gain some more yardage there. Now my last, oh no, not my last player. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. My second player, and I know people already know I'm a Packers fan, so this may be a little biased, but I think this is a good sleeper player, and that's Alan Lazard. Devontae Adams is gone, so that opens up the door for Alan Lazard. And, with Christian Watson and Romeo Dubs as rookies, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to really rely on them as much as he would Alan Lazard. He has Cobb there, but Cobb's like, I think, 30-some years old. And for wide receiver, that's really old. So I think Alan Lazard steps up big time as a wide receiver one. And, he has a very solid season, too, when Devontae Adams doesn't play. Very solid game. So I think Alan Lazard could have 1,000-yard season too, and not only on the field but in your fantasy league too.
Yeah, I think so. I think going back to Green Bay, AJ Dillon is another good sleeper pick. he wasn't on my list of my 3 picks, but AJ Dillon I think is definitely going to get more playtime than he did last year.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I would still pick Aaron Jones over him, but I think AJ Dillon is definitely another good choice.
Well, yeah, but when it comes, I'm sorry, but when it comes to opportunities too, they like to use AJ Dillon like near the red zone.
Yeah,
So Dillon gets pretty much all the touchdowns
that is true.
most time.
Yeah, and it's hard to pick in fantasy when you have a pair of running backs like that where they're both so talented and they really utilize both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So my third sleeper pick I had was Jerry Jeudy. I think with Russell Wilson going to the Broncos, I think he's gonna be a solid pick.
Opens up the door too.
It opens up the door.
Because Judy with Drew Lock at the quarterback, he had a solid season, but no one, I mean, everyone recognized him. But now does he have probably the best quarterback in his career so far, throwing him the ball? They're gonna take notice, and Jerry Jeudy will take that leap, getting another solid season. Now, my third and final sleeper player for my fantasy team, if I were to pick, I think me personally, he was my player last year, but with Urban Meyer gone and Doug Pearson in, I like James Robinson in this situation. James Robinson is a very underrated running back. I think, he deserves a lot more carries and touches. I don't know why Urban Meyer didn't really give him the ball as much, because I noticed that with most of the games, but he's gone. Good riddance. Anyways, I think Doug Pearson will give James Robinson a lot more opportunities in both receiving and rushing. So I think with a new coach and new play calling, James Robinson can get back to his old self too. So that's it for our sleeper players. Our last category for today is players to avoid, and we're not just saying this, nothing personal. We just think it's players that you should avoid.
It's not. Most of the players that we have listed here are very talented players. It's just from a fantasy standpoint, they may not be the ideal pick. The first one is Deshaun Watson, obviously. Even if there wasn't the whole controversy and suspension, it's been a while since he's been in the league, and I think aside from their running backs, I would probably avoid the Browns in general, just because I don't know what's going on, and it's kind of risky.
Yeah, Cleveland's definitely has is back to the reality of what the Browns really are. I think they did Baker Mayfield dirty, but Deshaun Watson not playing football for 2 years and learning a new system. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, could help Deshaun Watson, but again, we don't know how long he's gonna be suspended for. They say 6 games, but that could improve. But my first player to avoid, and it kind of made me sad because I had him in fantasy last year and he was an absolute beast. But with Russell Wilson gone, I don't know if Tyler Lockett is going to have the same value. Listen, I love Tyler Lockett. He was my fantasy hero last year. I want to draft him, but I don't know how Drew Lock or Geno Smith is going to be with Tyler Lockett. He's a speedster. He gets great separation. He makes the deep play. I love Tyler Lockett, but with the quarterback like Drew Lock and Geno Smith, it could be like one of those take some time. We'll see what happens with a new quarterback. But right now, I mean, if you get him like in the real late rounds, I would get him. But like in the early ons, I would tend to avoid him until hey, he's gonna be fine with Geno Smith or Drew Lock. He's a great wide receiver. I just don't know how Drew Lock or Geno Smith is gonna be with him. Even though Geno Smith and Tyler Lockett have been fine, but the rebuild in Seattle. So that's just me on Tyler Lockett. Great receiver, but don't know what the quarterback play is gonna be.
The next player I have to avoid is Mitch Trubisky, and I would also put Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph in that category because who knows who the starting quarterback in Pittsburgh is going to be, and it's hard to say. They're all talented. Two of them have a better shot than the other one, but I don't know if Mitch Trubisky is going to start out and then they're going to put in Kenny Pickett, or if he's going to play the whole season, or what's going to happen. So maybe halfway through he's a player I might trade for, or maybe he's one. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there, and that's kind of a risk that I wouldn't be willing to take.
Mm-hmm. The only thing that's helping with Mitch Trubisky, I mean, it's a new team, but he is gone from Matt Nagy, and Mike Tomlin, he's a great coach. I know a lot of Steeler fans want him gone, but without Big Ben the one year with Doug Hodges, it went like what 9-7. So I think with Mitch Trubisky, I think it's like one of those things too about Tyler Lockett. It's gonna take time.
Mm-hmm.
Like they played from time of this recording. They're gonna play their first preseason game tonight, so this can probably be posted tomorrow, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, see, told you Mitch Trubisky played well," but
Yeah, and I'm not avoiding him because he's a bad
no.
player by any means.
No, I know what you mean.
But it's just the situation he's in.
The new system. Oh no, I got you. But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's gonna be one of those take some time. So yeah, both are we have two players that are taking some time. Hey, if you're Tim the Tatman, I just want to say I'm sorry, but another player I would avoid, and because me personally, I dropped him last year, Ezekiel Elliott. It just, I don't know why. Ezekiel Elliott just fell off, and nothing. Like I want him to succeed. I love Ezekiel Elliott's rookie season in 2017, 2018, but it just seemed like every year he's like decreasing in value for fantasy. I hope he gets. I hope he eats my words and prove me wrong, but every year he just getting less rushing yards, less opportunities. Or I mean, Mike McCarthy's there, so that's probably why. But I think Ezekiel Elliott's a player I would avoid in a situation, especially with Tony Pollard being like Agent Aaron Jones. I think Tony Pollard is going to have a better fantasy value than Ezekiel Elliott. So I think Elliott's a player I would avoid. Again, I hope he does well. I love watching Zeke play. He's a terrific running back when he gets going, but with Tony Pollard there too, it just So that's it for me for my second player.
My third player that I have as a bust would be Chase Claypool. Again, going back to Pittsburgh, he, if you ask me next year, I probably would draft him. But just the situation that we're in, or that Pittsburgh is in, if he has someone different throwing the ball to him, and he's used to getting those long drives, it's hard to adapt to a new system, to a new QB.
Yeah, I mean, and Chase Claypool's a talented player too. Again, he didn't really have a good season with Ben, but with a new QB, again, take some time value.
I think he has a lot of potential. I just think we're not going to see it right away.
Right. And my final player, and this one might stir some controversy too, but Ryan Tannehill. Malik Willis just played. Malik Willis played amazing. Obviously, that's not going to mean anything because Ryan Tannehill is still going to be a starting quarterback because I think Ryan Tannehill had a decent season. Drafted in fantasy, he just, in my opinion, inconsistent. Especially with losing A.J. Brown. You are getting Derrick Henry back after missing half the season, but without A.J. Brown and with Treylon Burks as, I think, pretty much your starting receiver as rookie, I don't think Ryan Tannehill is going to have that season where like he used to be, like 2019 when he exploded out of nowhere. He just inconsistent, throws risky interceptions. I drafted him in fantasy last year, and he hardly done anything for me in games. Like, he'll have like one decent game, but that's about it. And he's not a bad quarterback. He's like in the middle. He's average. But I think the inconsistency and with the loss of AJ Brown, that's gonna hurt his value. Another sleeper player real quick before that's it. Jalen Hurts. Just saying. I'll get more details later. But yeah.
Well, going back, I think it's interesting, and me and you have had this conversation before, because there's a lot of players that I wonder if they were in a different team, if they were with a different group, if they were in a different system, how they would perform. Mm-hmm. Would it be better or worse? And it's always, you don't know. But it's always interesting to think about that.
Like, there's some players, like Jacksonville, for example. There's some players, like there's some talented players, like, Trevor Lawrence. Or, will Trevor Lawrence be better if he was like on? This is just a random thing, but Cincinnati.
Well, and that's, you think about the draft picks and like, the top 5 draft picks from the class aren't always the best players from that class. And is it because they're not the most talented, or is it because they go to the lowest ranked teams? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to think about because who knows?
Right. But yeah, those are players. Those are our fantasy football advice, and again, these are just our opinions. If you have any questions about our opinions or any comments you'd like to make, please leave them in the comments. Um, we took some research into them, and I think me personally, this is a great list.
I think so.
I mean, it's fantasy football, and we're all excited. It's football season again.
I mean, we could be completely wrong, and all of our choices could be wrong, and that's the fun of it,
I hope Alan Lazard goes for 1,500 yards.
Yeah.
But no. But yeah, and again, we just want to say thank you to everyone who's been listening to our podcast. We will be on Spotify, and that is definitely Ron. I need to update that. New podcast every Thursday, but there will be a new podcast, but maybe like twice a week.
Let's go for once a week.
Yeah, we'll do once a week, but
we're gonna try to be more consistent.
But yeah, so but we'll be on Spotify soon. There'll definitely be probably an Instagram post about it or a TikTok post. And again, follow us on YouTube on the 4th Down, TikTok on the 4th Down. Spotify's coming soon, and Instagram on the 4th Down. And we just want to say thank you to everyone who's been listening to our podcast. We, love you all so much, and we just want to say best luck to your fantasy team. Football season is back. How about it?
Yeah, best luck to your fantasy teams, but mine's the best one.
Valid. Alrighty, guys, thanks for listening to the 4th Down podcast. We'll catch y'all later. See ya.
See ya.